To put the Topstone Carbon to the test, we've come here to Flanders. Where Anders? Because we've got cobble climbs, a very small cobble climb just here. We've got tarmac, we've got concrete, and we've got some pretty challenging gravel sections as well. Where better to put this bike to the test within a 3.5 hour radius of the Sigma Sports store in Hampton Wick. This is actually the first gravel bike I've ever ridden. And people talk about, well, why do you really need a gravel bike? Why can't you just use a cross bike or a road bike with wider tyres? But the specificity of this frame is kind of perfect, actually. This model is the Topstone Carbon Ultegra Disc RX. Let's have a little cheeky closer look at the frame first up. Now, Cannondale used their Ballast Tech carbon fibre here, bringing lightweight and stiff efficiency to the gravel sector. And the cables are internally routed so they'll never get dirty. Well, not that dirty. Now, the geometry is pretty relaxed, maybe not as relaxed as I am right now, but it's a good blend of control and comfort. The position itself is designed to be relaxed enough to ride all day and sporty enough to really shred it as well. The out front fork lengthens the wheelbase just enough to give you a more stable ride, but not enough to impact the bike's tight handling. It's a really confidence-inspiring setup. If it's mounts you want, this bike has got plenty. In fact, I've nearly lost count of how many mounting points there are on this bike. Here on the top tube, there's a little mounting point for a bento box if you want one. Multiple points, of course, for your bidons and bottle cages. And, importantly, if you're doing a bit of enduro riding, racks front and rear. And also, another cheeky little also, it's mudguard ready. So this bike could be your do-it-all commuter bike with a cheeky option of taking a detour down the towpath. Now, you don't have to be super eagle-eyed to have noticed something pretty special going on towards the back end of this bike, and it's just here, and it is called the Kingpin suspension system. It really is a unique suspension system, utilising a pivot just here on the seat tube, which allows the rest of the frame to flex around it, offering really effective compliance. Now, the entire back of the frame, the uniquely shaped rear stays, seat tube, and even the rear of the top tube all flex like a series of connected leaf springs, absorbing bumps and vibrations as you ride, with up to 30 mil of flex. Well, don't worry what mashes, because the oversized down tube ensures that none of this flex causes loss of power transfer. And because the only addition to the bike is a through axle with bearings, there's hardly any weight penalty for so much compliance that's been gained. That's something you can't say about typical suspension shocks and linkages. Now, because of the Kingpin's rather clever location, it's just as effective whether you're seated or standing up. Transitioning from the gravel onto smooth surfaces like tarmac or concrete in this bike path actually doesn't feel too bad at all. There's obviously a bit more traction than you'd normally experience due to the wider tyres, but this frame actually shares the same geometry as the endurance road model frame, the Synapse. So there's no real compromise at all, apart from a little bit of added grip, and even the suspension doesn't feel too sluggish at all. Now, wherever you're riding this bike, the BIG, big tyre clearance, is a massive advantage. The bike comes complete with 37mm WTB Riddler TCS light tubeless ready tyres, but there's space to fit up to 40mm on 700C wheels, and up to 48mm if you have a set of 650B hoops. And of course, the easy thing to do with this bike, if the terrain wasn't quite as harsh, just change out your tyre width, even put some slicks on as well. Perfect for the road. Drivetrain wise, up front, we've got Cannondale's proprietary hologram cranks with a sub-compact chain set, which means a 30/46 up front and a very wide 11/34 at the back, which means you've got plenty of gears and a lovely ratio to accelerate hard or as quickly as you can up loose and skitty surfaces like gravel or even on a cobbled berg. It's a geargasm. For the rear mech, they've gone for an RX, which has a clutch, which is fantastic at reducing chain slap, especially on multiple changing surfaces, or even just your local potholes. Whoa! Now, if you're worried about the performance capabilities of this bike, let me put it this way. Last year, Lachlan Morton of EF Education First won the inaugural edition of the GB Duro riding a Topstone Carbon. Now, if this bike can hack a 2,000 kilometre bike packing race all across the UK, it can pretty much handle anything. This bike is a great option for anybody looking for an anywhere bike. It comes set up for general gravel riding, but you can modify it to suit your own fire roads, trails, towpaths or tarmac. Just get yourself a set of tyres that best suit you. Now, the thing I enjoyed in particular about this bike, especially as we're in Flanders, was the way that it handled the cobbles. I've ridden a lot of cobbles over the years on 28mm tyres, 25mm tyres, and this, to be perfectly honest with you, handled the cobbles like a breeze. It sort of had them for breakfast. It smoothed them out, it made it far more comfortable. And when you're on a normal road bike without any suspension or narrower tyres, you have to really think about your technique on cobbles, you have to think about your weight distribution. But with this, I just sat on it, pedalled, and the bike went forwards. It was fantastic. The question is this bike a true all-rounder? Well, I think the answer to that, with my experience on it, is yes. But with the caveat, it can be a true all-rounder if you really think about tyre choice. Now, if you want to have as much fun as I did cycling it in Flanders, head over to sigmasports.com or pop into one of our stores to get your very own Topstone. I'm going to go for another baz now before the sun sets. Toodle pip.